Wanted to welcome you on Sports Talk and the Success Table, Chris, and get it rolling with how did you get involved with football as a kid?
Man, I grew up in Gainesville. My parents were both graduates of the University of Florida. My father was a professor in the College of Pharmacy. So living here in Gainesville, everything kind of revolved around Gator athletics, and just had a chance to not only go to all the football games, but all the basketball, the baseball, the gymnastics meets. I mean, it really was a large part of my upbringing, and I became fascinated with the idea of playing football for the Gators and playing in the NFL. And fortunately, I got a chance to do both of those things. And obviously, it was a dream come true for me.
Definitely, man. Besides your family, who else were your sports role models that you grew up idolizing and wanting to be like, man?
That's an easy one, man. Chris Collinsworth was my hero. You know, he was a receiver when I was 7, 8 years old. You know, long, tall, skinny white dude that I could kind of emulate, and somebody that I wanted to follow in his footsteps. So much so that even after, you know, his playing career was over, getting into the broadcasting world, I followed him when he was working, doing radio at WLW there in Cincinnati, and then his early TV stuff. And so it really has been somebody that's not only been an idol to kind of look up to, but has been a little bit of a mentor as well. You know, the relationship over the years has been cool, and I'm really grateful to have somebody that has been able to blaze that path and give me the opportunity to see what I wanted to do and follow in his footsteps.
Definitely. Do you see any resemblance between on the field and off the field in the media?
Well, a lot of people say there was a resemblance when I was a kid. There's a great picture that I have, and I can get it to you, of me at Florida Fan Photo Day. And you know, people, I remember my teammates when I was at Florida, when they started running the articles about me and the comparisons with Collinsworth, and like, man, you sure Collinsworth's not your long lost dad somewhere? So I think there's some similarities, and I love the way that he calls the game. You know, I love the easily relatable context, and the down home kind of aw shucks way about, you know, talking about football in a way that everybody can kind of relate to. And I think that's the thing that I look at in my career, is trying to figure out how to be the best version of myself that I am off the air, on the air. Authenticity is what's really most important about this broadcasting business. And it was hard in the beginning. You know, you look at people and try to emulate what they're doing, but that's not really all that authentic. It's trying to just be who you are and have a conversation, so the people that are watching at home or listening at home feel like they're a part of that at the local water cooler or something.
Definitely. I think the relatability aspect of behind the camera, that's the number one thing, man.
No doubt.
With the audience.
No doubt. I think that's kind of what was the key to my success at Florida, was that, you know, I wasn't this 5-star blue chip can't miss prospect. I was a slow, skinny white dude from Gainesville that grew up a Gator fan, that wanted to play football for the Gators, that had to walk on. And I was like kind of every man's dream, you know, the goal of going from the stands to being on the field and crossing that velvet rope. So I think a lot of people could relate to what I was going through. And I think in this country, we all naturally kind of cheer for the underdog. And I think that's what Definitely. I was when I was at Florida. When I was in the NFL, I mean, over a 10-year period in the NFL, I got cut 10 different times. I moved 22 different times across the country. So it's always been me having to prove that I'm worthy, whether it was football in college, the NFL, or even in my broadcasting career. But in the end, it's made it much more gratifying to have to take that path with a little more resistance to it.
Definitely. It's always more, the reward feels a little bit more, more valuable than things being given.
And not only does it feel more rewarding that way, but it also makes you fight to stay there longer. You know, I think that's the thing. When you realize how much sacrifice you have to make to get to that point in time, you're not gonna ease up. Complacency is the enemy of success. And I think that's one thing that I've learned early on, is that, hey, you cannot rest on your laurels. You got to keep pushing every single day to not only get better, but to fend off everybody else that's coming to try to take your job.
Definitely, man. Besides Florida, what other colleges were on the radar for you, man?
Man, growing up in Gainesville, that was all I ever wanted to do. And, you know, I got a preferred walk-on offer from Coach Spurrier. I was a little disgruntled that I didn't get that scholarship that I thought that I deserved. Florida State ended up giving me a preferred walk-on opportunity, but in the end, I bleed orange and blue and wanted to be a part of making that childhood dream a reality. I'm thankful though. Again, we go back to being grateful for the way things turn out in hindsight. And had I gotten a scholarship offer to some smaller school or, another part of the country outside of the SEC, I probably would have taken it. So the fact that I had no scholarship offers really allowed me to take advantage of that preferred walk-on opportunity at Florida, and the rest is kind of history.
Definitely, man. I think in life, in general, it teaches you things to come, the lessons, and it prepares your journey ahead, man.
That's a great point, because having to walk on, having to earn that scholarship, having to fight and claw and not become complacent is exactly what led to the perseverance that I developed that helped me at the NFL level. Again, going through all the different times of being released and having to move and adjust and keep fighting for what I felt was my goal that I wanted to achieve. And then again, with the broadcasting world, on top of that, I'm doing this interview from my mortgage company's office. And we opened that in April of 2007, about to celebrate our 15-year anniversary. And everybody knows what happened in 2008, 2009 with the real estate market and the implosion of the mortgage industry specifically. And it was that fight that I learned at Florida that I honed in the NFL that allowed me to push through and get to this point where we've had a lot of success despite the rough start.
The Gator chop, man.
No doubt, man. That's the thing I talk to guys all the time about. And I was over at Florida earlier today at Florida's Pro Day, calling it for the SEC Network. And the thing that I want to emphasize to people is, hey, it's a great opportunity for you to come play football and hopefully get to the NFL. But the networking opportunity, the lessons that you can learn while you're in college, and the opportunity to really make some great friends and connections that can help you when your football career is over. I wish I would have taken better advantage of that. I think people now are emphasizing the opportunity. Just people want to be a part of the lives of football players at SEC schools, and so why not leverage those desires to get yourself an opportunity for something after football. And I think a lot of athletes don't have that vision. I wish I would have had a better vision for that. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of benefit to playing college football. And I know a lot of people say, the name, image, and likeness thing was take too long to get here. But the reason that I do what I do today, I haven't gotten to play in the NFL, having to chance to work for ESPN, the SEC Network, SiriusXM, all of that came from me playing football at the University of Florida. So I've made a lot more money in my post-playing days than I did from the time that I was in the NFL, and all of that is due to me playing football for Florida.
Definitely, getting the spotlight, the eyes on you. That's the key right there.
It is, it's opportunity. The name that I created as a player certainly has helped, but again, it's the opportunity to meet people along the way and have people invested in your life and want to help you out. I mean, it's really something that's benefited me, and I try to pay it forward the same way with young people today myself.
For sure. So with the training regimens at Florida, what carried over to the NFL level?
I think I developed, I was a like I said, a little slow, skinny dude that always trying to put weight on. I think I developed a good work ethic in the weight room in an effort to try to get bigger and stronger and faster. That was something today, like I told you, I just got done working out. This is a large part of my life because of what I went through playing football at Florida and in the NFL. So, there's a lot of similarities. I look at today, the pro day, the way that guys train for the combine and for their pro days is much different when I was coming out. And it's a whole different, preparation time from when your season ends to when you're going through this, and these guys are much more ready for it than I ever was. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from my time at Florida was playing for Coach Spurrier and playing for Dwayne Dixon, who was our wide receiver coach. The attention to detail that we were taught, the way we went about running routes, the releases, the getting in and out of breaks, all of those things helped me at the next level tremendously. There were a lot of guys that I saw that were very productive college wide receivers that got to the NFL, and I'm like, man, did anybody ever coach this guy? But the thing was, they just always depended on their athleticism, and so they never had to learn the nuances. And when you get to the NFL level, everybody's so similar in talent. You're not going to run by guys. You're not going to be wide open. You got to find a way to put your foot in the ground and separate. You got to find a way to use your body to catch the football. Those were the things that I learned at Florida from Coach Spurrier and Coach Dixon that I really thought helped me at the next level.
Definitely, man. So up to the point where you played with the Colts, how did you win trust with Jim Harbaugh, the coach from the Michigan Wolverines now?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about him being, the successful NFL and college coach. And I remember him as a teammate, a guy that was a veteran when I was a rookie. And so we all kind of looked up to Jim. He was an interesting dude then as he is now. But, I spent some time on the practice squad and kind of bided my time till I got an opportunity. My first catch in the NFL in a regular season game was from Jim Harbaugh on a third and 10 conversion. I caught a slant route from him. And I always remember those early years of my career and time in Indianapolis, and just being able to play for so many different coaches. Lindy Infante was my coach there at Indianapolis. I had a chance to play for Mike Shanahan. I had a chance to play again for Coach Spurrier in the NFL. Had an opportunity to play for Bill Cowher, who was one of the first, defensive-minded head coaches. All of these different stops along the way. It would have been great probably to be at the same place for 10 years, but to have gotten a chance to not only be coached by all these different coaches and all these different systems, but also play with so many different players at my different stops. I've played with so many Hall of Fame guys. I think about, Bruce Smith, having a chance to play with Marshall Faulk, having an opportunity to play with Hines Ward and Jerome Bettis. I mean, Plexico Burris. There's just so many great players that I had the chance to learn from and play with and just have great memories alongside of. And so it's really been a blessing in disguise to have had the chance to be exposed to all those different coaches and players throughout my career.
Definitely. And most of those guys, they're doing camera work now. How do you think they've made those transition look so easy?
Well, it's really not easy. First and foremost, as you know, I think the art in it all is making it look easy, and it takes time. It's just like anything else, getting reps at it. But some guys are more successful at it than others, and people just trying to figure out. That's one of the most difficult things in an athlete's life. Whether you're talking about a professional athlete that had a 10-year career, you're talking about somebody that's finishing up their high school career. At some point in time, the days of you playing on the field are over with. And how do you transition to that next stage of life? I told you earlier, my dream as a kid was to play wide receiver for the Gators and play in the NFL. I had done both of those things, and it was over with by the time I was about 32 years old. So there's a lot of life afterwards to try to figure out where you're going to move to next. What's going to bring that spark? What's going to create the passion? And it's a hard thing to do. I mean, I think you look statistically, I want to say that the number in the NFL within 5 years of retiring, 75% or more of guys are either broke, in jail, or divorced, or a combination of the three. So it really is hard to try to figure out, how you're going to do something that you've kind of used as your identity for the majority of your life.
Yeah, for sure. Some of them revert back to drinking and alcoholism and doing drugs. I've seen a lot of them go down that path.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of that in the general population as well. But I do think it's harder. It delays the maturation process. Playing football at a big-time college football program, especially today, with the way you have – the school gets you registered for classes. The school has tutors to keep you eligible. They got dining halls for you to be able to eat every meal. You never have to learn anything for yourself. And the more successful of a player you are, the more you're catered to in high school, in college, and in the NFL. And so when you finally get done with that and all of that is gone, you don't really have the skills to take care of yourself in a lot of situations. And I think to some degree we do these players a disservice. Certainly the high school players that are told how great they are coming out and how overexposed they are, and that need for validation from the outside. I look at some of the players that are these can't miss prospects that never amount to anything just because they do rest on their laurels. And it goes back to kind of what I told you before. I'm so thankful for not having that same dynamic as a kid and having to work for everything and scrap and prove people wrong, because it not only developed that skill set in me, but it also never allowed me to have that complacency.
Definitely. So life after football for you, how have you applied the trials and tribulations of the game to your personal life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about a little earlier, the idea of what I had to learn, and perseverance and belief in myself, and being able to pick myself back up when things go wrong, from my days of walking on at Florida and earning that scholarship. It paid dividends in the NFL with having to get, cut 10 different times and keeping on. And then again, with the broadcasting world and the mortgage company that I have. So it's just I think sports in general and football specifically is a great vehicle for teaching kids about life. The teamwork that's required, the goal setting, the perseverance, everybody doing their job and depending on the other 10 guys out there to do theirs. There's so many things that cross over into the real world that I know there's a lot of people down on football and the violence of it and the concussions and everything else, but I think there's a lot of really good beyond the game that can be taught to kids that helps athletes after their careers are over with.
For sure, and it brings a lot of people together from different races, religion.
Well, that's the best part about it, is the locker room. And one of my guys that I lived with my redshirt freshman year, traveling on the road, was a black wide receiver from Carroll City down in Miami. Grew up totally different than I did in Gainesville, Florida, in the suburbs. And so we would lay awake at night in our hotel room and talk about, some of the things that he was exposed to as a kid, or some of the things that I grew up, and he'd come over to my house and we'd eat Sunday dinner with my parents. It just, color doesn't exist in the locker rooms. And I wish there was a better representation of that outside of the world of sports. And I think the world would be a much better place if everybody kind of experienced what you do in that locker room.
Definitely. It's united for a goal. And
no doubt.
For sure.
No
so
doubt.
My next question, and we'll end on this, it's from B&D Sports Media. How do you think Matt Ryan will do with the Colts, him getting traded from Atlanta?
Yeah, it's a little weird to think about seeing him in some different colors, but I do like the idea of him getting a fresh start. Things that seem to get a little stale there in Atlanta. Probably a good thing for the Falcons to move in a different direction as well. But with that defense that the Colts have, with the run game that the Colts have, it really is a perfect opportunity for Matt Ryan to just plug and play and be able to depend on those around him. He's just such an experienced veteran quarterback that he brings some stability at the position to the Colts franchise. And I think it's a great fit for both sides.
For sure. And I think they got old with Carson Wentz's play last year. It got a little bit old for him turning the ball over.
That's the one thing you can't do, right? If you have a run game that's that effective, if you have a defense that limits teams the way that Colts defense did last year, the one thing you can't do is turn the football over. And especially towards the end of the season, they found themselves in situations where they probably statistically should have won, but didn't because of those turnovers.
A lot of questionable throws for sure.
No doubt.
Hey, their defense, their offensive line's good, their running game,
yeah,
their receiving core is decent, but they're just needing one piece, and that's that quarterback. And I think really and truly they might take the leap. They might be Super Bowl contenders, but I'm not quoting it.
It'd be nice to see. It's funny, man. The NFL's made themselves somewhat of a year-round sport these days, with the way that we go through the lead up to the draft and free agency and OTAs and mini camps and everything else. It's fun to have the opportunity to talk, especially doing what you and I do, to have the chance to talk about football year-round the way that we do with the NFL, and to some degree the way we do with SEC football too. It's a great way to eat up innings in the summertime doing radio at this time of year.
Heck yeah, that transfer portal has really opened the college football game.
No question, no doubt.
We'll leave on this. What's your thoughts on that? You think it's unfair?
Well, I mean, you can look at it two ways. I mean, it's basically free agency in college, and I experienced what it was like to go to a school, to come in with those freshman class and graduate with those guys 4 or 5 years later. Like, there's something special about that. And I think, Kirby Smart made a great point about it when he said, this is going to keep guys from growing up, because hey, if things go wrong, hey, I'll just put my name in the transfer portal and go somewhere else. And it's kind of like what I told you about my experience was I had to persevere through the doubt that other people had in me. I had to prove folks wrong when things weren't going well. I didn't have a choice to go anywhere else. It was about making it work there. And I think to some degree, kids are going to find an easy way out with the transfer portal, and it'll benefit some. But I think at the same time, some of these guys you'll never hear from again. As we've seen, it's like musical chairs. Sometimes you put your name in the portal and there's not a spot for you somewhere else. And so your career is effectively over, and you don't not only get a chance to play again, but you don't get that degree that would have benefited you as well.
For sure. I think Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma, that was a bad move for him.
I don't know, man. Hey, I'm in the SEC here, brother. So I'm excited about Spencer Rattler being in the conference now, South Carolina. They've done well with the not only the transfer portal, but with their signing class this past December and February as well.
Like he let the quarterback position. He was supposed to be a Heisman favorite, and you let Williams go in there and shine. Come on. I think he transferred too, didn't he?
Yeah, they both did. Yeah, he ended up at USC with his former coach there, Lincoln Riley. So it's, the stories are crazy, and it'll keep us busy on the sports talk radio and television airways for sure.
Heck yeah, man. So Chris, we'll leave on this. Where can my audience find you on social media?
At Chris Doering on Twitter and CDoering28 on Instagram. I haven't quite been as productive on TikTok, man. I haven't embraced that platform yet, but CDoering28 at Instagram and at Chris Doering on Twitter.
Heck yeah. So Chris, we'd welcome you back for another one. And this concludes our interview, man. I greatly appreciate it.